And we are back. It is year 3 of predicting every single college football game, and we begin right now with week 0. 8 games this week in college football, and of course, we are back predicting every single game through now all the way to the national championship game next Monday. The 3 to 4 hour marathons return. We're predicting every single game. I cannot wait. We've been doing this for 3 years. It's a lot of fun here on the channel. We get to talk about every single team in college football every single week. Every week at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to join us for these college football predictions. Best bets for college football will be out on Friday. We'll get into the NFL season eventually. Predictions for the NFL on Thursday. Best bets on Saturday. But let's do it, folks. College football week 0 predictions. 8 games this week. Before we get into it, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and like. According to YouTube's analytics, over half of you guys that watch these videos are not subscribed, so make sure to do so if you have not yet. It helps out the channel a ton if you like and subscribe. I will say these videos take a lot of effort, with them being 4+ hours starting next week, and I'm the only one behind this operation. So again, if you are enjoying, make sure to help me out by subscribing and liking. Every single day on the channel, daily MLB best bets, Greedo plays MMA this week, UFC Shanghai predictions, and our Dana White's Contender Series predictions. Real quickly, I'm just saying, we had a really good 2025. I may have called the national championship and who's winning it. This is probably my hottest take of the video and probably my hottest take of the season. We have teams that we had last year. We had Buffalo all year. We had Indiana. This year it's Indiana and Miami. But Miami's one of these teams I'm going to say right from right now. I believe they're winning the ACC, and I believe Miami's going to be in a really good position to win the national championship this year. Indiana's beating Oregon. Oregon's not ready for this. They're not. Dante Moore's great. Has he played a defense like this yet? Nope. And he almost choked it against Penn State. You know who's going to go to Penn State and dominate the Nittany Lions? Indiana. Give me the Hoosiers. Indiana goes to Oregon. They get it done. Keep your 8.5 points. I don't want the points. I don't want it. Don't want the points at all. I want the money line. Plus 260 for Indiana. This is the best team in college football. And just so we have it on the record, who's winning in 2026? The Hoosiers. They're going back to back. But more on that next week. Indiana returns to play UNT. Let's kick things off. The first game of college football in 2026. We go to Dublin, Ireland. International game, and it is a rematch of last year between the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. There actually is a pretty big relation, of course, this year between the reigning champions and the Indiana Hoosiers and TCU. I haven't gotten officially a chance to celebrate here on the channel with Indiana's big victory last year. Again, I'm still riding the highs, though. What can I say? But of course, TCU quarterback last year, Josh Hoover, transfers to Indiana. TCU replaces Josh Hoover this year with their transfer out of Harvard in Jaden Craig. I like the move. Of course, I don't think Jaden Craig's going to have the numbers Josh Hoover posted for TCU. I will say the thing about Hoover consistently was the turnovers, and it was the interceptions. That's a big thing that at least Curt Cignetti and Indiana are going to have to deal with all year long, really limiting those turnovers from Hoover. Jaden Craig was really good last year with the Harvard Crimson. Last season, 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Again, that is at the FCS level, but the senior out of Montclair, New Jersey, has posted great numbers throughout the FCS, played 3 years over there in the Ivy Leagues, now coming over to the Big 12. He is the new starting quarterback for the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. For the most part, you're getting a team that's returning. I think out of their defense, I think it's 10 of the 11 starters this year on defense are returning players. For the most part, they're returning an entire line, not all starters, but at least guys who were with Texas Christian last year. Jeremy Payne returns as the running back this year for TCU. He had over 600 yards last year for the Horned Frogs. I don't mind it. He posted a game towards the end of last regular season game. He had 175 yards against the Cincinnati Bearcats. Games in Dublin, if you remember last season, TCU and North Carolina played on a Monday night to start the year. For about 4 minutes, we were all really excited about UNC football. Game was at Chapel Hill, or they nicknamed it Chapel Bill, of course, because it was Bill Belichick's debut as the head coach of UNC. And then TCU went on to score, 48 of the last 55 points in the game. Ultimately, Texas Christian won 48-14. And Josh Hoover, of course, was great. It was a dominant performance again for the Horned Frogs. Now you get it at a neutral site. You get it in Ireland. I believe game days in Ireland. They're usually in Ireland or the international spot to kick off the season. I don't know how much better UNC's gotten this year. Okay, so if you care, Max Johnson's the starting quarterback at Georgia Southern this year, and Gio Lopez transfers in the conference to go to play for the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. So the new starting quarterback this year for the Tar Heels is going to be Billy Edwards. Billy Edwards was granted a medical red shirt for last season. Of course, was the starter for the Wisconsin Bearcats, the Wisconsin Badgers. He got injured in the first game of the season. He returned midway through the year to play against Maryland and then re-aggravated an injury, never played again. So ultimately only appeared in 2 games, but Billy Edwards played, a quarter at most last season. He was a starter at Maryland for the Terrapins in 2024. He was originally a Wake Forest Demon Deacon back in 2020, 2021. This is now his 5th, 6th year of college football, and he is starting for Bill Belichick's squad with UNC. A lot of transfers again for North Carolina. They're replacing a lot of linemen. You get a couple new receivers in this group as well. Billy Edwards, of course, at quarterback for this team. I just think they're going to struggle again this year, man. It was a disappointing last season, of course, for North Carolina. They had a lot of games where they struggled to move the football and struggled to score. And again, Gio Lopez was the quarterback behind all of that last season. You go to Billy Edwards now. I will say Billy Edwards gives you an experience edge. Of course, Lopez coming on over from South Alabama, going to UNC, right? Catapulted early into a starting role, I understand. I just think they're going to struggle a lot again this year. I mean, if you compare rosters between Texas Christian and North Carolina, TCU has the better team. And I'm not just completely saying that, of course, because of last season and the way that Texas Christian, dismantled North Carolina 48-14 at UNC, but TCU is the better squad. North Carolina does return one of their running backs in Demon June. June split time as the lead back for them last season, but towards the end of the season, he was really only getting 5 carries a game. He had 450 yards in total last year for North Carolina. UNC defensively, we'll see how they are. I mean, that was not their concern for most of the season. They just had a lot of games where they couldn't score more than 15 points. They started the year 2-1 with victories over Charlotte and Richmond, closed the year 4-8. Only 2 ACC victories were up at Syracuse, an injured Syracuse team on Halloween, and against Stanford. I like TCU to absolutely dominate Bill Belichick's squad here. I will see what we get out of Jaden Craig in his first start at the FBS level, but I think he's going to be a serviceable replacement for Hoover. Will he be better than Hoover? I highly doubt it, but I think he gives TCU a good enough night, or a good enough game, I guess we can say. It's not a night game, of course. Actually, it will be in Ireland, right? He'll give him a good enough night. I'm going Texas Christian in Ireland to win and cover against UNC, -7 for the Horned Frogs. On to our second game of the week, and we go to the Memorial Coliseum, of course, in Los Angeles, California, as the USC Trojans are at home against the San Jose State Spartans. USC comes into the week the only ranked team, by the way, playing in week number 0. USC 14th in the country. They've got high hopes for 2026. They will be going to Bloomington in November. They've got back-to-back games in late October, early November against the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Indiana Hoosiers. Of course, they have to play Oregon as well. And I'm not going to go too far into West Coast teams likely never going to really, establish dominance in the Big Ten because of the fact they have to travel so much, and that doesn't really bode too well for them once we get into January and whatnot. But regardless, USC is a pretty light non-conference schedule. It's what we see a lot of these Big Ten schools trending on doing more and more. I mean, it's kind of a response from the SEC. At least that's what, Kurt Cignetti is saying. USC, 3 non-con games are San Jose State, Fresno State, and the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. Obviously, they're going to start the year 3-0 and likely 4-0 what they win at Rutgers before getting that big matchup on the 26th against Oregon at Los Angeles, or in Los Angeles. USC at home, though, here in week 0. It's a tune-up spot, of course, for the Trojans. Jaden Mavia, of course, the starting quarterback still for USC. Of course, a couple seasons ago, took the job from Miller Moss. Mavia has done a good job as their starting quarterback. Mavia, I would consider one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football this season. I know there are some people that are high on him in terms of winning the Heisman. I don't think I can be that high on the guy. I think he's going to have a good year, but again, you've got a lot of good Big Ten defenses. There's a lot of travel that SC is going to have to do this year. They've got 3 huge games against likely 3 top 10 opponents. We'll see how they fare. But in week 0, obviously you get almost as easy of a matchup as you can get against San Jose State. Man, the Spartans struggled quite a bit last season, and their 2 best guys on offense are now gone. Quarterback Walker Eget, is now a Duke Blue Devil. Danny Scudero is playing for Coach Prime over at Colorado. Scudero put together a phenomenal year at receiver last season after 2 years ago, Nick Nash held the Triple Crown as a receiver for San Jose State. Scudero now again a Colorado Buffalo. And I'm looking at the San Jose State roster, and I'm really struggling to see where they find production here. Luke Weaver is the new starting quarterback for the San Jose State Spartans this season. If you remember, he had a phenomenal ending to the Hawaii Bowl last year as Hawaii had a miraculous comeback over JKS and the Cal Golden Bears. Luke Weaver ended up throwing the game-winning touchdown pass after Alejado had to come out of the game at the end of the fourth quarter. Weaver wins it for Hawaii, and now he finds himself as the starting quarterback for San Jose State. Sure, again, this is a Modesto Junior College transfer who went to Hawaii, never really got to start many games for them. I think he started, 2 when Alejado was out early last season against Portland State and whatnot. He's now starting for San Jose State. He won the starting job over Robert McDaniel, who returned after being, I think he was a freshman last year. He's a redshirt freshman now. We'll see. It's a completely new receiving core for San Jose State. They lose a couple receivers, one to Sacramento State, which we'll talk about later. I really struggle with this team, man. Jabari Bates does return as one of their backs this season. He had some big games earlier in the year last year before getting injured. They're going to struggle at SC. I mean, that goes without saying. We'll see what Luke Weaver does. He's an experienced quarterback, don't get me wrong. He's played a lot of college football. But USC, you bring back a lot of guys from last season. I think Jaden Mavia is going to be phenomenal this year. I don't know if he's, again, a top 5 quarterback. I don't know if he's a Heisman-type quarterback, but he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. We'll see, again, how USC plays, but we're really not going to know how good truly this team is until they go play Oregon, because, again, they'll be expected to be 4-0 at the time of that game. San Jose State, if you remember last year, was just so awful. They had so many games where we were so mad watching this team because Walker Egat would throw for 450 yards a game, and they'd still lose. I mean, they had a game, which is one of the most embarrassing games I've watched all year long, when they went to Nevada and lost. We were on the wrong side of them, brutally choking a game where they were up 14 points with 8 minutes to go at Wyoming. They lost in regulation by 7. We got screwed so many times last year at San Jose State. They finished 3-9, and they were at the bottom of the barrel of the Mountain West. They lost at home to Air Force last year in a game where Egat threw for 334 yards, and, Scudero put up multiple 150-plus yard performances, and they would barely win anything. If you remember last year, too, San Jose State had Central Michigan at home to start their season. Their kicker missed 4 field goals to win the game, or at least to give them the lead at one point. I can't take them here, man. The spread is 38, and to be honest with you here, it should be a lot more. USC should be favored, I believe, by about 44. I know San Jose State, they went to Texas last year and were competitive against Arch Manning and the Longhorns. They only lost by 31. Texas missed out on a lot of scoring opportunities in that game. I don't think State's going to score, because that was their one thing last year. They could score points because of Egat, because of Scudero. They don't have either of those guys now anymore. I don't think they're going to be able to replace those guys, obviously, with their offense. SC's got a good enough defense. Mavia and company will score. USC at home, minus 38. On to our third game of the week, and we move to the ACC. The Virginia Cavaliers, who were 1 game away and 1 quarter away from the college football playoffs in a really, I guess college football altering game where if they had beaten Duke, Notre Dame gets into the playoffs. They don't sit out the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is an absolute travesty. And now, of course, we've rewritten the rules for Notre Dame. So, if they're in the top 12, they have to get in the playoffs. No other team in college football gets those rules. And hold on, UConn's an independent. What if UConn goes 12-0? What if UConn's put in the 12 spot and they get bumped out? Are we going to rewrite the rules for the UConn Huskies? I don't think so. I'm so sick of the Notre Dame. It just, they skipped down the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is the biggest travesty of them all. I know they're going to make up for it and play BYU this year, but ridiculous stuff. Anyways, and Notre Dame must play 2 ranked opponents this year. Oh my goodness. They have to go to BYU, and Miami's got to go to Notre Dame in November. Oh my goodness. So I'm already sick of Notre Dame. We haven't even started the season. NC State, Virginia, you get an ACC matchup here. We've got a couple conference games this week. Well, to be specific, there's 2. It's this one. We've got one in the Mid-American Conference later in the video. Virginia at home in Charlottesville against the North Carolina State Wolfpack. I like the plus 5.5 here on NC State. I do expect Virginia to ultimately still win the game, but I think NC State keeps this game really close. When these 2 teams played last year, it was in Raleigh, but NC State did pull off the victory. I think Virginia was better last season. I think they're going to be okay this year, but they were a quarter away from beating a bad Duke team in the ACC championship game, which could have gotten them into the college football playoffs. It would have sent Miami out of the college football playoffs and probably would have gotten probably wouldn't have gotten Notre Dame in. No, it would have. Because the group of 5s wouldn't have been in, right? Because then JMU wouldn't have gotten the playoffs. It would have changed everything. Anyways, because they weren't going to put Miami in as an at-large, I don't think, but who knows. NC State last season did beat Virginia earlier in the year. It was a non-conference game in week number 2, or no, week 1, because was it week 1 or week 2? I forget. Regardless, they played Virginia early last season, and NC State beat Virginia at home, but it was a non-con game for both teams. So that came back later in the season because Virginia, of course, did lose to Wake towards the end of the year, but the NC State game didn't count for a conference game because they scheduled it years ago before both these teams played in the ACC. Really weird stuff going on there. I think that's how that worked out. I think. It was weird. It was a non-conference game between 2 ACC squads. Last year, of course, NC State got a pretty good season out of CJ Bailey. Bailey is now back for his junior season. I think he's going to improve. He had a really good sophomore year last season for NC State. I think he improves upon that. Had a really good game at Georgia Tech, or I think it was at home against Georgia Tech. Yeah, it was at home against Georgia Tech where he threw for like 350 yards and a 48-36 victory for the Wolfpack. And as for Virginia now, Bo Pribula, starting quarterback for the Cavaliers. He takes over for Chandler Morris. Of course, Morris transferred from UNT. Pribula transfers over from Mizzou. Why is Eli Holstein here? So I believe Holstein, with the new rules in terms of eligibility, Holstein's going to have one more. So Holstein, and this is going to be Pribula's last year. He's a graduate student. Holstein will get one more year next year, I assume, as the starting quarterback for UVA. I don't know why you went here, though. I mean, we're not that far moved a couple seasons ago from Holstein leading Pitt to potentially the college football playoffs. They fell short. Obviously, they lost their last 5 games. He got injured. I get it. But Holstein was a big deal at one point in time. He lost his starting job last year. Now he's a backup for Virginia. I don't know why he didn't just go to another, Power 5 school or Power 4 school, just not on the level of UVA. I don't know why he did this. Bo Pribula is the starting quarterback. I think Virginia's going to have moments this year. I liked what they got in terms of their running game this year. Both Peyton Lewis and Middlebrook transfer. Middlebrook over from Middle Tennessee. Peyton Lewis over from Tennessee. Peyton Lewis is from Tennessee. Middlebrook from Middle Tennessee. Like what they did, they got a couple receivers as well. Rico Flores transfers in from UCLA. That's a big get for them. Deshaun Martin transfers in from Kent State. He was I think he actually was their leading receiver last year after McCray transferred out a couple seasons ago. I like what they did. I just think NC State's able to be very competitive. You bring back CJ Bailey. Duke Scott is back again this year. He had some big games toward the tail end of the season last season for NC State. I think they cover here. 5.5's a lot. Again, last year, it was a non-conference game, but it was competitive. And NC State won the game at home by 4 points. I think this one is ultra competitive as well. The better quarterback, again, I like Pribula, veteran. CJ Bailey's the better guy, and he might be the difference maker in this game. And sure, NC State's going to struggle, I think, a little bit with the run game without Hollywood Smothers, but do they struggle that much? Smothers, of course, transferred to Texas. They've got replacements. I don't hate what they did with their run game this year. Duke Scott will be the lead back. You're going to have Davion Gauss as well. I think NC State covers here. I think CJ Bailey's going to make some big plays. I'm going North Carolina State plus 5.5. I think UVA does win at home in Charlottesville, but this one's going to go down to the wire. I don't think UVA's as good as they were last season. Maybe I'm wrong on that one, but I'm going with the Wolfpack here. On to our next game, and it is the FBS debut of the North Dakota State Bison. They have finally done it. We've been talking about this for years. It's been rumored for a while as well. After decades of dominance at the FCS level, NDSU finally comes up to the FBS, and they have joined the Mountain West. They've had, dominant eras at quarterback. You have Carson Wentz, number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. You had Trey Lance, who was the top pick in the NFL draft. Easton Stick was, at one point in time, I don't think he still is. He definitely isn't anymore, but at one point in time, he was the all-time winningest quarterback at just in college football in general. If I'm not mistaken, Division I college football, I believe at one point in time, it was Easton Stick about, 4 years ago? North Dakota State has pumped out talent for years. They will now give it a go at the FBS level. I will say it's about time. There wasn't much else for NDSU to accomplish at that level, and they join the Mountain West, and they open up their first ever game here in the FBS level at home at the Fargo Dome against the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Okay, this is a tough game for them. It is. And I understand a lot of the hype is going to be around NDSU. It's an FBS game at the Fargo Dome. That's awesome. That's great. Jack State's a problem. Right off the bat, I see NDSU plus 7. It's too many for me. It's way too many. It's your FBS debut. There's a lot going on in this game. I don't think NDSU is a great portal. They didn't really do much. They added some pieces defensively, but for the most part, they're rolling with their same team as last year. At least, the same guys that they had last year. They're filling in spots with their starting group, essentially, with their first unit guys, which is fine. Jacksonville State's good, man. Do not underestimate this team and what the Jack State Gamecocks were able to accomplish last season. Welcome back, starting quarterback Caden Creel, who I like a lot. I do. I think Caden Creel is one of the better quarterbacks in the G5, and especially in the Conference USA. You could argue he might be the best quarterback in the USA this season. Sure, as a pure passer, he's not phenomenal, but he's improving. As a runner of the football, Caden Creel is an issue. He's one of the better running quarterbacks in all of college football. Of course, him and Cam Cook dominated last year. Cam Cook led all of college football in rushing yards last season. Cook is now a West Virginia Mountaineer. Don't worry, Jack State has replaced him with the backup last season in Christian Lando. Lando got to run a lot in their bowl game. It was at the Veterans Bowl, Salute to Veterans Bowl against Troy. He carried the ball 11 times for 44 yards. I'm not going to tell you he's going to be better than Cook last season, but I think he's going to be a serviceable replacement. And when you have a guy like Caden Creel who took the job from Gavin Wimsatt, former Rutgers quarterback, and just ran with it, he is a phenomenal runner of the football, and he can make some throws when you need him to. DeAndre Johnson is back. Their 6'8 receiver is returning. Johnson last year had 720 yards. He was really their only threat in the pass game, to be fair, but when you have a guy who's as quick as Creel, who moves like Creel, and you've got a running back who I think is going to be good enough in Lando on top of that, with Johnson, who is 6'8", 50-50 balls for days, they're a tough out. They're a tough out. And for me, they're one of my favorite teams in this USA this season. They truly are. Like, we'll see how Liberty responds after a super disappointing season last year. We'll see how, Kennesaw bounces back. We'll see how WKU is always going to be a factor. They score a lot of points. I get it. I like Jack State again this year, man. Jacksonville State was a great team last season. Of course, they lose this USA championship to Kennesaw State at home. It's a game they should have had, but that's neither here or there. We talk about North Dakota State, of course, joining the FBS level. I don't know how great they're going to be in the Mountain West this season. Last year, their starting quarterback was Cole Payton. Payton got drafted in the 5th round by the Philadelphia Eagles. Left-handed arm. NDSU always produces NFL talent, especially at the quarterback position. So this year, it's going to be Nathan Hayes. Nathan Hayes was the backup last season. I believe he's a junior now, I think Nathan Hayes is. We'll see. It's a really tough spot for him, right? I mean, you've seen quarterbacks like Wentz, Lance, and Peyton last year all have a lot of success for this squad. And all right, go fill those shoes, but now you're doing it at the FBS level. I get it. We're not that far away from Jack State being an FCS team either, but you go from Cam Miller last season, you get the numbers you get out of Peyton last season, and now to a guy who, Nathan Hayes, I think can be good, but I just don't know how high level he's going to be going into this game. And, Jack State's a team that can make you pay. They're going to run the ball down your throat. They're going to have long possessions. They've got, of course, Johnson, who's 6'8", and I do like their quarterback a lot in Caden Creel. I'm going Jack State +7. I think North Dakota State probably wins, but I really think we got to put into perspective how difficult it is to win in your first FBS game. Yes, they're at home and they're in a much better spot than they're not even rivals because Sac State's not in the Mountain West. Then Sacramento State, who's also joining the FBS here in a second, because we'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know how that game's going to go. I think NDSU barely gets by, but this is not the team I'd want to see in your first game of the season. Oh, by the way, last year, Jack State opened the year at Central Florida, lost by 7 points to UCF. I think they play a close game here against North Dakota State. I think NDSU's almost respected too much here with the Lions, in my opinion. Give me the Gamecocks. They were great last season. Creel's back. I like this team enough. On to our next game, and here they are. Welcome to the FBS. This is not a team that we've been wondering for a while if they're going to get in or not, but what they put up $50 million to Sacramento State. They're paying for travel, for broadcast, for each team coming over to Sacramento throughout the course of the season. But the Sacramento State Hornets are in the FBS. They have left for now the FCS. Well, no, I guess they're staying. But the MAC, I believe that's the only conference they're going to be football for. So they're not joining the MAC for basketball. That would be insane. Of course, college basketball best bets resume, November 2nd, November 1st. We'll be back on that in a little bit. Sac State, though, goes on the road to Ypsilanti, Michigan to take on the EMU Eagles. And Noah Kim has got another year of eligibility? Sure. Why not? I thought Noah Kim was done after last year, but of course, with the new rules and whatnot, a lot of guys are going to tack on more years. I mean, we're seeing players going to get cut from the Cleveland Browns, and now go to LSU. Sport's ridiculous sometimes, but you know what? I don't really care. It's fine with me. It's college sports is just minor league football, which is fine. Just they've owned up to it. That's what it is. Fine by me. Anyways, EMU and Sacramento State. Yes, these are conference rivals, Sacramento State and Eastern Michigan. So a MAC conference game to start the year. Again, Noah Kim returns as a starting quarterback for the EMU Eagles. I have no idea how he still got eligibility, but he does. Of course, this is a player who was at Michigan State for a couple years, played in multiple games for Michigan State, played at Coastal Carolina, and then transferred to EMU last year. Posted some good numbers for Eastern Michigan. The turnovers were a little bit of a concern, but I would say he was a decent enough quarterback in the Mid-American Conference last season. He's back, and they're taking on Sacramento State. Okay, guys, I don't think they're the worst team in college football, but they're certainly close. So many transfers. And Sacramento State, I will say, they've got a lot of money. All right, there's a lot of big spenders out there in Sac. I believe Vivek, who's the owner of the Sacramento Kings, is funding this a little bit. They're saying they're building a whole new stadium in Sacramento because they're going to try to make their way into the Power Four eventually. They want to be in the Pac-12. They got denied the Pac-12. If I'm not mistaken, they got denied the Mountain West as well. And the MAC were the only conference that would take them. But they do put up a lot of money to get a lot of transfers. Last year, they had quite a bit of guys come in at the FCS level. This year, they brought in players as well, but I just don't know what quality of players they brought in. Davian Godley's supposed to be their starting running back this season. From what I've seen, he did post pretty decent numbers, and he was decent at Weber State. I don't love that Carson Conklin's your starting quarterback. Carson Conklin started some games last year for Fresno State. If you watched Fresno State last year, you know that they were a mess offensively for most of the season. They were a team that was really, relying on their run game, which was still kind of mid, but their run game and their defense. There was a point in the year last year where E.J. Warner, again, son of Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner, got benched for Carson Conklin. Conklin comes in, and he was even worse. Carson Conklin had games where he, go 12 for 30 passing, and got to the point where they had to bring E.J. Warner back in, even though Warner, again, was pretty bad. He wasn't as bad as Carson Conklin was. Now, Conklin was a sophomore last year. He's now a junior. E.J. Warner has graduated. Maybe he could have no, he does not have another year. I was thinking with the new rules. He's played 5 though. He's gone through 5 with Rice and Fresno and whatnot. Conklin now goes to Sacramento State. Fresno didn't really upgrade at quarterback. We'll get into that next week. Well, they upgraded from Carson Conklin though. I think Carson Conklin's one of the worst quarterbacks in college football. I understand Warner struggled last year at Fresno as well, but I've never watched Carson Conklin put together a good game. We'll see truly how good Sac State is next week when they play Mississippi Valley State, MVSU, who's time in and time out one of, if not the worst team in the FCS every single year. Shout out to the Delta Devils. But Sacramento State at Eastern Michigan, they're going to get embarrassed here, guys. Not like I think EMU's that great. EMU added to their line. They've got 4 new starting linemen this year. Their only returner this year on that O-line is going to be their center and Nicholas Gallegos. The rest of these guys are going to be new linemen for the squad. They're returning every single one. Let me put this in a better way. All of their starters on defense are returning players. They're not all returning starters from last year, but you rebuild through your own team and throughout your own depth. I like EMU here. I think Noah Kim's, gonna have a decent senior year. Joey Matford returns as a running back for the squad. Didn't get that many carries last year in 2025. He will be the starting running back now of this team. EMU last season was just very mid. 5-7 last year, 4-8 last year. Again, Noah Kim had some games. Dante McMillan was great as their running back last season. He is now with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think he's going to make their roster, but I could be surprised. Noah Kim's an experienced guy. They did lose to Long Island University last year, though. I forgot about that one. They did lose to Fins Up. I know it's basketball, but they lost to LIU last season. Oh boy. But like Sac State's in FCS. Like, would Sac State beat Long Island last year? Seriously, would have Sac State have beaten the NEC zone in LIU? LIU went 6-6 last year. I don't know. I'm going to go here with Eastern Michigan. I think they embarrassed Sacramento State. Again, like I talked about with North Dakota State, it is difficult to get that first FBS win in your first game. NDSU gets that in the Fargo Dome. Sacramento State's got to play a conference game week 1 up in Michigan. I'm going to go with the Eagles. On now to our next game. Let's go to the West Coast, as we've got the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors and the Stanford Cardinal. This is a rematch of last year's Week 0 game between Stanford and Hawaii. Last year, it was played over on the islands. This year, of course, it's in California. What was Stanford doing in the offseason? They didn't do much. Andrew Luck's running things now, and they add Davis Warren as their starting quarterback. That is the most notable move that they have made. Davis Warren is their solution. So they hated Ashton Daniels. We're going to talk about Ashton Daniels in a second. Ashton Daniels is starting games for Florida State this season. Okay, and I understand this. We're a couple of years removed from the Ashton Daniels Stanford situation. Auburn last year, FSU this year. Okay, great. You had Ben Goldbranson last year. He put up some decent numbers at times. Graduate student, 25 years of age. Okay, your solution is Davis Warren at quarterback. Oh my goodness, Davis Warren's the guy for Stanford this year. Former Michigan Wolverine, was part of that, scramble at times for Michigan when they were trying to find a quarterback post J.J. McCarthy. It was Alex Orji. It was Davis Warren. Warren's now at Stanford. So he did not play in 2025. He retired, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Davis Warren retired in 2025. Sorry. No, he just had a torn ACL, so he missed the entire year. I thought he retired. Sorry, that was not Davis Warren. I apologize. That was their other quarterback they had when their three, just a disastrous year in 2024, where they still had Colston Loveland too, by the way. Anyways, again, it was Warren, it was Orji, and Jack Tuttle was the other quarterback. Tuttle has retired. Tuttle retired to do media. I got Tuttle and Warren mixed up. Warren didn't play last year because he was injured. So he's 24 years old. I had a medical redshirt last year. Now he's starting for Stanford. Sure, I guess. His last year with Michigan, how about 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with the Michigan Wolverines, and now you're the starting quarterback of the Stanford Cardinal. This is going to go great. Davis Warren's never been a good arm. He's never, Sam Roush is in the NFL. Sam Roush, Falcons, I believe Sam Roush is at now. Sam Roush had some big games last year. Bears, excuse me. He's backing up Loveland and whatnot. Sam Roush had a big game last year against Boston College at home. He's with the Chicago Bears now. So you lose your best offensive weapon, and now you got a quarterback who's never been known for his arm. Micah Ford, the starting running back this year. Okay, Micah Ford had some big games last year. Ran the ball 30 times against Cal for 150 yards. That's great. I have to imagine they're going to be super run heavy again this season. They're in trouble against Hawaii. They're in massive trouble against this team. Micah Alihado is the truth. Left-handed gunslinger. Dude, Alihado's great. That comeback that Hawaii pulled off against Cal last year, we'll never forget it. One of the best bowl games, if not arguably the best bowl game last year, other than the Pop-Tart Bowl and the playoff games. That's how great the Hawaii Bowl was on Christmas. The Hawaii Bowl was last year on Christmas Eve. Shout out to Micah Alihado. Ashlock had a big game. He's back for his senior season. Of course, Luke Weaver with the game-winning throw. Hawaii got better. They brought back a lot of players. They reloaded through the transfer portal. They've got a whole new receiving core. Their 3 top receivers this year are all from the portal. They get Carson Brown from Iowa State. Never really played for Iowa State, but he's in the receiving core now. Trey Griffiths from Oklahoma State, and you get UW's own Audric Harris. I like what they did. They got Alihado weapons. Their defense should be pretty decent this year as well. They're a sneaky candidate to win the Mountain West this year. They probably won't because, again, it's just hard for these teams like Hawaii and like the West Coast teams in both the ACC and the Big Ten because all of the travel back and forth. It's still crazy Stanford is a team in the Atlantic Coast Conference, by the way. But Hawaii got weapons this year. They spent in the portal a little bit. They got a quarterback in Alihado who's the truth. I really am a fan of Mike Alihado. He slings it. Had 400 yards in back-to-back games last year against the Air Force and Utah State. And Hawaii had so many high-scoring games last year. They beat Stanford last year. It was at Hawaii, but they did beat Stanford last season. And on the road, I know they weren't great on the road last season, but, they beat Colorado State. Wasn't a big win last year. Going to Fort Collins wasn't that difficult. They went to Air Force and won. They've been able to score a lot of points on the road. It's all up to their defense and if they can hold Stanford. I don't know what Stanford's going to do offensively this season. I think they're going to be atrocious this year. Davis Warren, respect, gritty veteran. This team's got to play Miami in, 20 days at home? They got Dylan Risk as well. Risk, third-year player from UCF, had to start a couple games last year for Central Florida. I thought he was going to be the starter until Davis Warren came along. Whatever. Have fun with Warren. He's their new Ben Gulbranson. But Gulbranson kind of salvaged the year late last season. I think they're going to struggle with Warren. I'm going to go Hawaii, not just to cover. I'm taking them to win. You can keep your points in this one. Mike Alihado is going to sling it. I'm not impressed by Stanford. Sam Roush is gone. Yeah, you keep running back and whatnot. Warren's around. I feel like they're going to be a non-scoring offense for most of the year. I like Andrew Luck, but I'm going Hawaii. Next up, oh my goodness. The fact this is only 30 and a half is kind of crazy to me. Was Florida State awful last season? Oh yeah. They've been a massive disappointment now for multiple years. Since Jordan Travis tore his ACL, they've been pretty bad. Since they got screwed out of the playoffs in 2023, they have been an atrocious football team. 2024, the DJU year, DJ Uyangalele, and then, Glenn and whatnot. DJU's still with the Chargers, I guess. I don't know if he's going to make their roster, but 2024, they go 2-10. 2025, of course, last year, the Tommy Castellanos year. Castellanos looking to return to college football now after he has been granted, of course, that 5th year of eligibility. Will he replace Brendan Sorbsy at Texas Tech? It seems like that probably will happen, but whatever, because Texas Tech's been desperately looking for a quarterback. Florida State last year, 5-7. They did beat Alabama, though, in their first game at home in Tallahassee. So they started the year well, and then they ran into UVA on the road, and the ACC schedule got tougher for them. They played Miami. They lost to Pittsburgh. They went to Stanford and lost as well in the game where Castellanos got his head taken off, essentially with a huge helmet-to-helmet hit. We'll see how they are this year, though. Florida State new quarterback, like we mentioned earlier, the former Stanford Cardinal, Ashton Daniels. I like the move. Yeah, I actually do. I like the move of Ashton Daniels as the starting quarterback now. So Daniels did not get to play a full season last year at Auburn. Of course, they started with Jackson Arnold. They sit down Arnold in late October for Daniels. Arnold we'll talk about in a second here. He's the new starting quarterback at UNLV. Ashton Daniels, he was okay last season. Had a decent game against Vanderbilt, was okay against Alabama, but he gets the reins here now at Florida State. Huge sink or swim year for him, obviously, in his senior season. It's not going to be for a lack of weapons for FSU this year. They did go out. They got some players in the portal, as they always do. New running back in Wisner. They get Quintavion Wisner from Texas. Of course, Hollywood Smothers now at Texas as a replacement. But Wisner now with the Florida State Seminoles. They add a completely new line. They were bringing back a lot of receivers. That defense does not look that bad this season. We'll see. We just need to see them get out and play. And, of course, they've had 2 disastrous seasons back-to-back. I think they're going to be pretty decent this year in terms of 7-5. To me, I don't know why they're only 30.5-point favorites against New Mexico State. New Mexico State was atrocious last season. They were one of the worst teams in the CUSA. They were starting Logan Fife last year. Fife on his 6th year of eligibility. He's finally now done with college football, but they started Logan Fife last season. He got sat down at the end of the year for Adam DeMonte, their junior quarterback. And we'll see who they start here. Apparently, it's Trey Haddon. So apparently, Adam DeMonte has returned, but he will not be the starting quarterback. It's going to be Trey Haddon, Haddon is going to be, this is his first year with New Mexico State. Last season, he was playing at Furman. Again, I'm not at New Mexico State, training camp and whatnot. I was not there in the offseason. Obviously, none of us were. This guy really won the starting job. I watched him play at Furman. Okay, we'll say, the arm talent looks pretty good. I'll tell you that. He made some very questionable decisions with the football last year, at least what I've seen with him at Furman. Of course, I was not able to digest every single Furman game. I, got to see what I got to see. Threw 13 interceptions last year. He's able to sling it. Do not get me wrong. The arm talent's there. 17 touchdowns last year, 3,000 yards, 100%. The picks are a problem. First game, go to Tallahassee. Go to Tallahassee, same spot where Bama went into last year in game 1 and lost. Florida State's going to easily cover 30.5 in this game. I think, again, New Mexico State believes, if this is my guess here, they think they're probably a lot more explosive with Haddon at quarterback instead of DeMonte. Sure, I didn't think DeMonte played all that badly last year. Had a pretty good game against UTEP towards the end of the season in El Paso that they actually won on the road, and victories were very few and far between last season for the Aggies. They're going to struggle quite a bit at Florida State here. I don't know how much they're going to be able to score. Again, they will probably go for that, big play potential with Trey Haddon at quarterback now. Their running back situation, I'm blanking off the top of my head. Again, New Mexico State, it's not like I was paying attention to them that much in the offseason, but again, Haddon will be at quarterback. It's James Jones. Yes, James Jones, the new starting running back for this team. He was at ULM last season. Did not play last year for the UL Monroe Warhawks. But you got him at running back now. Trey Haddon at quarterback. Yeah, Florida State probably puts belt to ass here. And I think 30.5 is a little bit disrespectful, man. It's still Florida State, and they did win early in the year last year before they fell apart once they got into the ACC schedule. But last year they played a warm-up game, a tune-up game against Kent State, who I understand the Golden Flashes weren't very good last year. But the Golden Flashes last year compared to New Mexico this year, New Mexico State this year, I don't know. FSU beat Kent State last year at home in Tallahassee by 56 points. They started the year 3-0. They finished 5-7 because, again, it's the Jordan Travis curse at this point. FSU wins, obviously, and they cover the 30.5. Final game of week 0, we go to Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada, for the UNLV Rebels taking on the Memphis Tigers. So UNLV is obviously with the new quarterback this season. Last year, Anthony Calandria had some pretty big games for UNLV, right? Calandria was good in spots last season for UNLV. They did go 10-4, including, of course, the Mountain West Championship and the Frisco Bowl. They lost the Frisco Bowl, and they got penciled in to the Mountain West Championship game where, yeah, whatever. That game was, New Mexico got robbed last year in terms of getting into the Mountain West title game. But Anthony Calandria had a phenomenal year last season for UNLV. He is now the starting quarterback at Nebraska. He's replacing Dylan Raiola, of course, there with the Huskers. Calandria out, replace him with new starting quarterback, Jackson Arnold. At one point, a very highly touted high school product, Jackson Arnold goes from Auburn last season, originally OU, to Auburn, gets sat down for Ashton Daniels midway through the year, and now Jackson Arnold is a UNLV Rebel. Okay, I don't think it's a bad move for him, though, right? I mean, I am a big advocate for guys who can't figure it out at the Power 4 level. Why stay? Why try to fight for starting jobs at the P4 if you know you can start in the G5, put up big numbers, and that's probably a better chance for you either to break back into the Power 4 if you're going to transfer back in, or to make it to the NFL. Put up numbers and be the guy. And be the guy not just on your team, of course, but in your own conference. So Jackson Arnold starting for UNLV. I'm surprised Alex Orji did not transfer. UNLV will still have an Orji on their bench this year. They'll have the Orji. Anyways, Alex Orji's not starting for this team. Of course, he got beat out last year. Calandria, again, beat out Orji in the offseason. Orji stays. There will be no Orgies in the end zone this year for UNLV unless, he obviously gets to take over for Arnold. And it's the right decision. Alex Orji, again, has not been a great thrower of the football. We've seen him, of course, at Michigan in the past with Davis Warren. But Calandria is their guy. Arnold's their guy this season after Calandria transfers into the Big Ten. And I like the move. I think guys going from the Power 4 down to the G5, sure, it might feel like a demotion at times, but I don't think it's all that bad of a move. And for a UNLV team this season that is in a very good spot to win the Mountain West, right? Most of these high-level teams in the Mountain West go over to the Pac-12, not UNLV. No more Boise for them. San Diego State can be annoying at times. No Fresno. UNLV's all alone in the Mountain West with NDSU, Hawaii, Wyoming, San Jose State, NIU. It's a really, I'm not going to say it's an easy year, but it's an achievable Mountain West title this season for the UNLV Rebels. They completely overhaul the offense a little bit in terms of personnel, but I'm okay with it. I think Jackson Arnold's going to have a big year, and Jaden Thomas returns as a starting running back for UNLV. That's a massive keep for them. Jaden Thomas posted over 1,000 yards last season. He had 900 plus yards in his sophomore year. He's back again as a starting running back for UNLV. So you get another really good runner for the squad, you get another good running back for this team, at least returning this season. And Jackson Arnold as the quarterback, I don't mind it. Memphis here on the road, tough week 0 spot. Marcus Stokes, new starting quarterback for the Memphis Tigers. They did bring in Aaron Noland. Noland, who, played some at South Carolina. I'm not mistaken. I think he was he a 4-star out of high school? Had to have been. Aaron Noland was. It's Marcus Stokes. Of course, Southern Miss's coach, who was originally at Marshall, went to Southern Miss, took all of his guys with him, Braylon Braxton and company. He is now over with the Memphis Tigers. Marcus Stokes comes on over for Memphis, or at least he's the starting quarterback now for the Memphis Tigers. This is a player who was at West Florida for a couple seasons. He was one of the top players. Was he the top player in the top quarterback in the FCS last season? He might have been in terms of pure yardage. He's now starting at Memphis with 2 years left of eligibility. Last season, 3,300 yards for Stokes. Okay, again, I don't think he's all that bad. I just wonder what the rest of this team is going to look like. It is a completely new Memphis team. A lot of their guys transferred out from last season, and you look at their depth chart, it is a completely new team in the American Athletic for Memphis. I believe their entire line is new except for their their right guard. They have an entirely new line of all transfers except for their right guard, Mitchell Parker. They've got one receiver that's returning in Brady Clues, who had 240 yards last season, and that's it. The rest of the team are completely new players with Marcus Stokes at quarterback. Aaron Noland is the backup. Dallin Hayden is their starting running back this season. Hayden last year was at Colorado. Last year was at Ohio State 2 years ago, right? Yes. 3 years ago, he was at Ohio State. Last year at Colorado. Hayden's their starting running back. You've got a completely new defense. All 11 starters are new players to Memphis. Their entire special teams unit, new players. I mean, it is a completely new, seriously, it feels like a new 60-man roster, essentially, 70-man roster for the Memphis Tigers. You have one returning lineman in Mitchell Parker, and you've got one returning receiver. I just can't imagine that you've got this much, new roster turnover, and you're going to go on the road week 1 and beat the best team in the Mountain West. I think it's an uphill climb for them. I think Stokes has the potential to be really good. UNLV is the much more complete team, the more complete offense with their running back coming back, of course, in Thomas. And I think, again, Arnold can give them good games. And I got to go with UNLV here. They're going to score a lot of points. We'll see what Memphis does. The Tigers were a little bit underwhelming towards the end of 2025. Start of the year hot, was 8-1, potential chance to make the college football playoffs. Dropped their last 3 games to Tulane, East Carolina, and Navy. Made the Gasparilla Bowl and got completely dominated by North Carolina State. Quarterback last season, Brendan Lewis has now, of course, graduated. He was a former Nevada player. Went to Memphis for his senior year. He's now done. We'll see what Marcus Stokes does in replacement. But of course, completely new coaching staff here at Memphis, completely new roster in general. You've got a bunch of guys who've never played an actual game, on the field with each other at the same time. I gotta go UNLV here. They're at home. They were very great last season, by the way, at Allegiant Stadium. UNLV had some big victories over Hawaii at home. They had that big win at home they lost the New Mexico game, but still. Beat Hawaii at home, had that really weird double overtime victory against Utah State where Utah State's kicker completely sold them the game. They beat UCLA at home last season. I got to go UNLV here. I will say, they played Idaho State really close in week 0 last season, but I like UNLV to get it done. I think they cover 5.5. I do think they're going to be able to do so here against the Memphis Tigers. Folks, that does it for our college football week 0 predictions. Again, this is just the beginning. We're going to be back every single week, Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. This is only the beginning. We're going to be picking every single game here in 2026. Buckle up. It's going to be one long and fun ride. So, folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to comment if you disagree with any of the picks. And make sure, again, to like the video if you did enjoy. Folks, thank y'all for watching. And Mamba forever.